Hi, my name is Josh Stokes. I've lived in Southwest Virginia my entire life. I've visited other places around the world, around the country, and there's just something about Southwest Virginia that is unique and special. Unfortunately, I can't quite put into words what makes it so special. So I'm going to show you. We're going to visit various businesses, events, and talk to the people who make this such a wonderful place to live. So join me on the community show. I can't wait to see you there. This is Josh again with the community show. I'm here with Zach and Anna from Porterfield Farms out in Boone's Mill, some of our neighbors in Franklin County. And we're just going to jump right into it. What do you do here at Porterfield?
Here at Porterfield Run Farm, we primarily grow produce as our main thing. We also do broilers, which are meat birds. They are a Cornish cross. We do currently have those on pasture right now, and we do have some of that in the freezer that's still for sale at the moment. So those are the main things that we do here on the farm. We are a no-till garden system here. We establish a garden without tillage. We start off with a little bit of topsoil or compost, around 3 inches or so, and then we'll add in about 2 to 3 inches of wood chips on top to establish the garden. Then as time progresses, as all that decomposes and starts to make the soil a lot nicer, we go back to about 1 inch of wood chips. That way we can utilize the jang cedar and the earthway cedar to be able to produce the produce. One of the things that makes our produce a little bit different than others is that wood chip method. It really does seem to add an extra flavor to the food itself, and it also really seems to help out with whenever there's a hot day like today. It helps to insulate the soil from that heat, and it also helps to keep the moisture in the soil as well.
And it also seems to make the colors pop. I mean, they're the lettuce. I mean, you really have bright, vibrant plant growth right here.
Yes.
So is that something that can be attributed to the no-till method, or is that more along the lines of proper fertilization and working the soil, in rotation?
We do believe that it really does help out the nutrient content in the soil quite a bit. We do what is called actually biologically grown. So that means we don't put any pesticides on our products whatsoever. And for that reason, it's because we don't want to kill any of the soil biology by accident. We don't even use any home remedies like neem oil or anything like that either. Generally, if it's a plant that really likes to get attacked by insects here, we typically try to avoid those types of plants.
So you could go right in this garden, pick a leaf, eat it, and theoretically you'd be fine.
Correct.
I mean, I know y'all still wash it. We were here a couple weeks ago. Y'all demonstrated the washing event, which you're probably watching right now as I overlay the videos. But no, it's pretty fascinating that you're able to grow such a bountiful crop out of these greenhouses and not have to use any of the modern methods that require chemical sprays or the tillage of the soil. This is more along the lines of using what is available on your farm rather than purchasing those crazy fertilizers and other chemicals.
Yes, especially with regards to NPK. Compared to inputs like you're talking about there, like the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, that's correct. Well, we don't apply any of that, those particular individual fertilizers to the garden at all.
That comes from just your natural, like with the wood chips and what you're naturally doing, is getting that in the soil.
Correct.
Already. Okay.
That is correct.
And with biologically grown, it also has, you have to have the pests in order to have the predators. The predators are gonna eat the pests, and if you don't have the pests, then the predators can't come because there's no food for them. So there's a balance. I mean, it's not all been hunky-dory, and you look at the garden, it looks beautiful now, but there's been a lot of sweat and tears over losing crops because of pests taking and devouring stuff.
You got to let the predators know the kitchen's open.
That's exactly right.
Very true. One thing to add there with the as an example, we tried to grow red potatoes and white potatoes here, and it just doesn't work. The insects just tear them up. But we did find one particular potato that does not really get affected in our area here, and that is sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes basically have no bug pressure whatsoever, which is really nice that we can actually plant those and have those available. So that's really been a really nice find of ours, and that was something we found out last year as well.
I love sweet potatoes.
One other thing about the pests is something that I did not know, but I was actually showing the garden to one of my friends and found wasps. Everybody doesn't like wasps, but I love wasps, and I tell you why. Because they eat the caterpillars that's on all of your brassica plants. They will take those caterpillar worms and they will chaw down on those. And I have seen that, witnessed it with my own 2 eyes.
I'm gonna have to reevaluate my opinion on wasps, because
Yeah, I mean, they hurt when they sting you, but if you have a garden that you do not spray and you have caterpillar worms, cabbage worms, I guess you would call them, on, the moths that lay their eggs and they hatch onto your brassicas and devour your brassica plants, you will have wasps going in and out, and you will eventually see that, because that's one of the things that everybody's like, I don't like wasps, but I love wasps here on the farm because of that reason.
So it's kind of like the old men and black snakes. Don't kill it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, you don't take away your black snakes, because they keep the rodents down.
All right, and you also said you grow raise Cornish hens.
That's correct.
Cornish hens. And those are strictly meat birds. You're raising them for meat. Now, how long does it take to raise a Cornish hen from time of hatching to processing?
7 to 8 weeks.
7 to 8 weeks.
Yes, they are quick. They are fast. I've heard them being described as the Lamborghini of birds. So they do take a lot of care with that as well, but they grow fast. They do grow really fast, and they are bred just specifically to be a meat bird. If you were trying to take them much past that, they start to have some issues. They start to have heart attacks and things of that nature. So they're bred just to get big quick and go ahead and be harvested. So yeah, that's a big thing. We are currently have those out on a shelter. It's a 10 by 12 Joel Salatin style shelter. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with that particular farm, Polyface. They've been a big help as well, so we really appreciate everything they've done for us. It hasn't been much, but it seems like so much to us anyway. It's been great, actually. So we move them daily onto fresh pasture, and we get to feed for them twice a day. The intent on that is to let them try and run out of feed. That way they can peck at the ground a little bit more, get some more of that nutrients from the grass and the clover. And then we just keep that going for 8 weeks or so, something like that. They start off we get them in the mail as chicks. They're about 1 or 2 days old. They go into a brooder for at least 2 weeks, and after that 2 weeks, then they go out on the pasture. So they're on pasture for 5 to 6 weeks of their life.
Okay. So, and also with the Cornish hens, y'all process them here as well.
Yes.
Yes. So that's quite the feat, from what I understand. Is it's an all-day event, and y'all have people helping, and
yes,
once they're processed, they're ready to be shipped to the market and eaten at home.
That's it.
Straight up farm to table.
That's it. No doubt. No doubt. It's really nice to be able to process them here on farm. The greatest thing is they have very, very low stress. They're not having to go onto a truck to travel down the highway or the interstate to get to the processing facility. So that's one of those things we really do enjoy here, and being able to do that for the chickens as well.
All right. And speaking of markets, y'all are available at the South County Market in Roanoke, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. It's at the Shops at West Village. It's on Electric Road near the Tanglewood Mall area, if y'all are familiar with that area there. And it's called the South County Seasonal Farmers Market. We're there Saturdays from 9 to 1 p.m. if you wanted to check us out. We're there selling whatever we have available. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. You can also check out our products on our website. It's only open 8 p.m. Thursday through 8 p.m. Friday. It's just the way we have it going with inventory and the harvest schedule here on farm. But that's www.porterfieldrunfarm.com. So you can check out our products there. We also have products for sale at Cannaday, Sav-A-Bit in Boone's Mill, Melvin's Farm to Fork store, which is in Burnt Chimney, Mountain View Country Market, which is also in Boone's Mill, Woods Farm store, which is on Naff Road in Boone's Mill. And then currently right now we have our products at Sidecar Restaurant, which is in downtown Roanoke.
And I mean, it sounds like you have a lot going on, especially, with with what you're growing, what you're selling, the different markets you're involved in. How did you get started?
So long and short, we started down in Sontag, Virginia. Around 2009-ish, we bought a house together and started trying to do market gardening down there. We were doing tillage with a front tine roto spade tiller, just standalone gas powered, nothing tractor powered. We were trying to garden there and we just could not get it to work. We were having to spray pesticides and still the bugs were still tearing up everything. I was operating that tiller so much so I wasn't even getting the amount of energy back and food that I was putting into the garden. So we went ahead and just took our hat off to that one and said, nope, we're done with this. No more of that. So after that particular aspect happened, a few years went on and we moved into this place we are now in Boone's Mill about 6 or 7 years ago. And believe it or not, this particular property used to be a market garden previously as well. The owner had unfortunately passed away a couple years before we purchased the property. And of course he was retired from doing the gardening at that point in time. So we started just playing around here a little bit. I tried digging a few holes out there in the yard. I thought it was such a great idea to put some tomatoes in a clay hole. It's as big as a 5-gallon bucket. Had all these problems with the daggone tomato plants and I couldn't figure out why. Well, what I was doing, I was creating a pond in the ground to drown all the roots on the plant. So long and short, my wife wanted me to make a raised bed and I was heavily against that. And suddenly we found a YouTube video from the Swedish Homestead. As they've changed their YouTube channel now, it's actually Simone and Alex, formerly known as Swedish Homestead, I believe. And they were talking about the back to Eden garden method. And this was right before I was supposed to do these raised beds. I said, Anna, I think I found a way we can do it. Fortunately enough, the tree company already came by here and had to cut up some trees and we already had wood chips sitting here. And another neighbor had a bunch of compost in a barn that had been sitting there for years. So we had just the right amount of material to make this 20 by 15 back to Eden style garden. So we planted that. We said, all right, let's just try this. And lo and behold, we had the most beautiful plants we've ever had in our entire lives. We was wondering what in the world's going on here. So we had to completely rethink everything that we do. And it was difficult. If you don't know where to find the information, you can't just go on the Google and type stuff in. You're going to find all sorts of crazy stuff on there. I mean, it's just nuts. So we found all kinds of stuff as a YouTube channel, Jeff Poppin, the Barefoot Farmer. I met this guy not too long ago. He was a very nice gentleman, very nice to meet. But he had one video that was just called Leave It Alone. We had 6 tomato plants out here. And what we did is we had the tobacco worms, the hornworms on them. So I listened to Jeff Poppin's video and paid attention and just left them alone. Well, it turns out there's a certain type of wasp that comes along and injects their larvae into that tobacco worm. So if you've ever noticed the little white sacs that are coming off of one of those, well, those are the parasite for that particular worm.
Wow.
So long and short, usually you would want to spray it, but if you have enough tomato plants and they're in healthy soil, you might lose a few limbs or branches off of your tomato plants. But in our experience, it's been great. Just leave them alone.
Nature helps take care of the problem itself.
To finish off your question there, we watched some other things like Curtis Stone, the urban farmer. That was one guy that we listened to, and that's how we've set up a lot of our processes here. Pretty much what we're doing here is small plot, high intensity farming. As you can probably see in some of the other footage you've seen here, that everything's really densely planted and we have 10-inch walkways. The way this garden is actually set up, it's set up industry standard for this style of gardening is actually 30-inch beds, but we took it down to 24-inch beds. Beds is just a term here on farm, that way we can continue on with the conversation. But anyway, so our beds are 25 feet long and they are 2 feet wide and we have 10-inch walkways in between. That's just to make it easier to move around within the garden system itself. So we said, okay, well, they're doing that with compost basically. They're doing some tillage. Curtis Stone is anyway. Well, why can't we use wood chips for the ground cover as well? There's some other influence as well. I just got to say these because it is relevant to it. You've got Richard Perkins out there at Ridgedale Farm in Sweden. We've listened to some of his stuff. You've got Jean-Martin Fortier from up in Canada. We've listened to a little bit of his stuff. And also one of the biggest influences we have here for this garden is Paul Gauchi with the Back to Eden garden. We've totally had to revamp the way we think. And thanks to that man, we've been successful at that. Whenever something goes wrong here, we always think, what would Paul do in this situation? What would Paul do? Would he run and grab the pesticides or would he go do something else? So it's been a big inspiration for us here on farm. And I got to give all those folks credit as well, because without all those people, we probably wouldn't be here today doing this. So it all started with the Swedish Homestead, seeing that it was possible, and was just doing research like crazy on it, and just finally made a decision to jump in with trying to do this market gardening with wood chips.
So the name of the game is research, research, research.
Correct. Testing.
Measure twice, cut once.
And testing. Don't just jump into something whole hog. You definitely want to run a little test run on it. So we have something we do here that's basically like a bush bean grid system. We'll plant our bush beans in about an 18-inch grid or so, and it's really easy. Just leave them alone, and when it's ready to pick the beans, we just pick the entire plant. Instead of trying to hunt and peck for beans 2, 3, 4 times, how many pickings you can possibly get off a bush bean. Anyway, so with that particular situation there, we didn't just jump straight into it. We started a little spot. We said, okay, well, let's just do 2 rows of plants at 12-inch spacing and see how it goes. And it turned out quite well. I mean, it wasn't as good as having a whole patch of them, but it worked out pretty good. We planted them a little bit too late as well, so that was on us. But but there's just another example of one of the things that we test out instead of actually just jumping straight in.
That sounds good. You mentioned the YouTube influences.
Yes.
But you also have a YouTube channel of yourself. So our viewers can actually learn how to do this style of gardening, which you would say is Eden style, correct? Eden style?
That is correct. Well,
or back to Eden?
Influenced by the Back to Eden garden, yeah.
So our viewers can actually look you up on YouTube and learn how you're doing your garden in itself.
Yes, you can. We actually have 2 YouTube channels right now. The first of which is Porterfield Run Farm. That's pretty much really for you guys here in this particular area. We'd make those videos on Wednesdays. I tell you where we're going to be, what's going to be happening. Then I take you out in the garden, just show you how things are going. We don't do farm visits at the time. It's just how we have it set up. If we had people coming by here, we'd never get any of the product harvested or planted, and then we wouldn't have anything to sell you. So that's one of the main reasons why we don't do any farm visits. But with that particular YouTube channel, you can see what's going on here every week if you'd like to. We do have another YouTube channel, and this is pretty much just to try and help show more of what we do here on the farm. This channel doesn't have anything to sell. There's nothing to sell you. It's just information that might be beneficial for you. It might be something that you can learn to something that you don't want to do. But that particular YouTube channel is called The Hillbilly Farmers. We launched it back basically October last year. And whenever we have time, we're trying to post videos to that, but it just depends on the schedule and how things go.
Now, what can people expect if they want to go purchase food from you either online or at the market? What can they expect to buy from you?
Salad mix. That's our main product. And we also have carrots and radish. That's kind of mostly what we have on a routine basis. Sometimes you'll get other things depending on the season and how the crops do. But for the most part, it's radish, carrots, and definitely salad mix. And then of course, you know, the heat, depending on the heat and the weather and all that stuff. So.
All right. And when you're at the markets, typically, you know, what's the time frame that you're going to be at the market, like South County?
For the most part, it's 9 to 1 unless the weather's not cooperating with us.
And people are buying directly from you, not just someone you send at the market, right?
Correct. You'll see
Correct.
Either myself or Zach.
As the farm progresses, that could possibly change. It definitely could.
Well, we'd like to see it progress.
Mhm.
So if that change happens, that's a good thing. It
Yes,
means you're needing more help. Farm's bigger.
that is true. That is very true.
And he will let the customers know in the video, hey, we're going to be out of town, yada yada. You know, we're going to have such and such here. That way you'll see, you know, a picture of the person, or say who they are or whatever their name is going to be there.
And I've personally been at the market, personally had the salad greens. Pick it up. You're missing out if you haven't had it. All right. Zach, Anna, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming down as well.
I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Definitely. Thank you for coming out and looking at what we do.